during recovery week, I'm trying to be efficient with the time and take the opportunity to test out a new watch. This is the second watch from Kospet that I've tested out. This is the Magic P10. It's a much more casual looking watch, but it still offers all the same sports mode and sport features that I would want out of the watch that I'm using on a daily basis. During recovery week, monitoring sleep and blood oxygenation are really good. For workouts, it does everything that I need it to do. It's definitely a lower price point watch. It's, compared to one of the $1,000 watches, there's a few features that aren't just available yet, but my understanding is that it's coming soon. But it has the sport modes that I need: swim, bike, run, both indoor and outdoor. Gives wrist-based heart rate and records all the basic features during the session, like pace, distance, cadence, and even a map of the route. After the workout, you can review your session on the watch and even get more details on their new Apex Move app, or you can send the data to Strava or iHealth. It has all the features that you'd want in a smartwatch, like Bluetooth connectivity and music playback, and comes with a 12-day battery life. It also has been reported that there'll be updates launching HRV and connection with more third-party apps in the future. So I've enjoyed playing with the watch and look forward to testing it more in the future. All right, it is finally time for a mid-season break. It's been a long 5-week push. It was an ambitious 5-week push overall. I'm leaving the last 3 race block a little bit happy with a number of things, but definitely with a little bit to be desired in other areas. And obviously, to talk through, for someone as long-winded as me, to talk through all 3 videos like I normally would, or all 3 races like I normally would, this video would get way too long and no one would watch it. So I'm going to give a quick kind of rundown recap of the races in this one, and then in a separate video, I'll talk more about some of the takeaways and some of the things that I'm going to do moving forward, or in what I did between the races and things like that. So I'll go into a little bit more details in the next video. This one is just kind of the nuts and bolts of how each of the races went, and hopefully that keeps them a little bit shorter and you're able to make it to the end. So overall, like I said, I'm not really thrilled with how the results turned out. I'm happy with the way I ran in 2 of the races, obviously, but in the end, this is a triathlon, and having a great run only matters if it's followed by or if it's preceded by a good swim and a bike, and the result is what matters most. Obviously, there's been a push for this 2:30 run barrier. It was done once at Ironman Brazil already, so it wasn't about just getting it done. It's about when it can get done and actually matter. I was actually talking to Thorsten after Challenge Rope at the awards ceremony, and he made a pretty interesting point that this kind of same barrier was a thing in biking, who could go under 4 hours, and then it became who could go under 4 hours and make it matter, i.e. and win the race. And I think Bloomie darn near did it. Patrick's darn near done it a couple of times, but they haven't gone under that 2:30 mark. And so I think that'll happen at Nice, whether it's for the overall win, who knows. I think a couple people might have a good shot at going under 2:30 on that run course. Hopefully I'm one of them. But yeah, so it's been done now a couple of times, but the next step is going to be who can do it and win the race. Use that as a tool to win the race, rather than, like I did at Roth, to come off the bike in 30+ place and just run on to 9th. Yeah, that wasn't the goal when I went there. The goal was to break 2:30 on the run, but I had much higher aspirations than a 9th place finish overall. So back into Cairns, choppy swim, really windy bike, and those are 2 things that I've struggled with my entire career, mostly because of a small fracture I have in my spine called a spondy. It's a wrestling injury I've had since I was in college. Nothing that'll ever heal. I have good days and bad days, and the bad days are choppy swims and really windy bikes, and that just basically causes a lot of discomfort in the back. It makes it really hard for me to sit aero and put power on the pedals. And if you can't sit aero and you're sitting up, you just get destroyed by the wind. So it was a tough day for me overall. I was happy to be able to get off of the bike and find my run legs really early on. I went in with the mindset of just trying to score as many points as I could and get on the podium. Those were the two goals. That's what I was focusing on. That's why I went to that trip. Didn't get on the podium, scored a decent amount of points, and had a breakthrough run for me. I left the race feeling mixed feelings. I ran a 2:30, a mid 2:30. So I think it was 2:30:21 or something like that. And overall was definitely a breakthrough run, but I got fifth. And the last, when I went from running 2:39, 2:40 to jumping up to a 2:30 or jumping down to a 2:34, way back in the Stone Ages before carbon shoes were a thing. In that race, that was a breakthrough run for me, but I did it to win the race. And that was the feeling that I kind of wanted to have, but it just didn't happen that way. Obviously, the guys up front were just playing stronger than me on the bike, and I was able to come back into relevance, but I wasn't there just for fifth. I was happy with fifth, but I almost left a little bit like I didn't want to talk about the run, and that was kind of how I left Challenge Roth as well. I ran a 2:28, but I got ninth, and this is a triathlon, and it was hard for me to really appreciate what happened there, and I think, or what what that accomplishment was, and that it's okay to be happy about that, and use that as this is just a next step in hopefully the progression for the year as we reset for the World Championships. So it wasn't a balanced race. I might have the balance a little bit off in training, but now that run fitness is there, and if I can maintain that run fitness and keep and improve the bike fitness leading into the World Championship races, maybe I'm set up for a little bit better of a day. Or maybe there's still hope to have a decent end result in the Pro Series. Anyway, back to Ironman Cairns. Was okay with fifth. Was okay with the points that I got there, and this was an add-on race for me when I planned out the season. Cairns was not on the season, but getting sick in South Africa, I had to make some decisions, and one of them was, do I go to Cairns or not? That was an easy decision. The other one was, what about Challenge Roth? And I had signed a contract in October, November timeframe, and been on social media and talked about this all spring long, that I was racing there, and I couldn't in good faith go back on my word. I put my name on a piece of paper saying I would be there, and I was going to be there. And if I'm going to be there, I'm going to race it to the best of my ability. I'm not going to just show up and go through the motions, or show up and pull out early on. I made a commitment, and I was going to honor that commitment. So that made going to Roth, it was something that I thought about, but I just couldn't in good faith not go. And the swim was okay. I put myself in a decent position if I would have had the bike that I'm capable of. I just flat didn't have the bike that I was capable of. And I've got a little bit of soul searching to do there. At Ironman Texas, I rode really hard for the first 2 hours and then exploded. And I don't know if that was kind of in the back of my head that I needed to kind of have that self-preservation to feel better in the back half of the race, or back half of the ride. And so I didn't make the aggressive moves on the up Solar Hill on the first lap when the group that I was with attacked. And that, in hindsight, I don't know if that was a mistake or not, because all of those guys came back to me by the end of the ride. So they attacked, got away from me. But I was able to catch them back at the end of the ride before I got off the bike. I didn't ride the last hour particularly well. My back was upset. I got further into the ride before it got really upset with me, but I was still not happy with how I ran or rode the last hour. But I got onto the run, and mile one, I see, or right away, I see my wife and Olivia standing there, and that helped recenter me and get me back in the mindset that I needed to be in to go and still salvage something on the day. I was in 30-something place at the time, and not really happy about it, and it could have gone one of two ways. I could have just hung it up and felt sorry for myself and maybe started thinking about Lake Placid, or I could go out and still try to accomplish something good and salvage the day. And seeing the wife and kid definitely helped get me into that kind of killer mindset that you need to have to go through and push yourself again, and escape the body, for lack of a better term, and just dial in and get on a good run. And I think Cairns was another good example of that, where I was down and out. Or even looking at Matthew Marcourt, who won the race, he was definitely not having a good day early on, but Ironman's a long day, or that distance is a long day. And so there's a lot of lessons that you can take away from that. I'll talk about that in the next video, but seeing them helped me. I was able to really dial in and ran a very consistent run splits until the hilly section at the end, which I was a little bit concerned that I was going to lose it at the very end, lose the 2:30 mark at the end. Like I did in Cairns, I had a little bit of a buffer, but the last 2.5 miles got really ugly in Cairns, and so there was a bit of a fear, especially when I got to the hilly sections. Then those hills didn't exist in Cairns; it was completely flat there. So, but yeah, I got to the bottom and things flattened out, and I was able to find my stride and run strong into the finish line and salvage. Keep the 2:30, or keep breaking the 2:30 barrier, by 2 minutes, which was obviously a great run, and for me, and it was a pretty cool moment to get the finisher medal from Patrick Langa, who had the current run course record at Roth, and for him to congratulate me on a good run was special. But on the flip side, I left there with mixed emotions, because I had a great run, but I finished 9th, and I wanted more than that, but I just didn't execute the race that I needed to in order to do that. On to Lake Placid. I went to Lake Placid to try to race my Ironman Texas score, and that was the point of being there, was really for the Pro Series. I knew that I didn't have the ability to win the race going in. It's a tough mindset to go in. I don't go into that very often, but that I wasn't recovered enough. I didn't have what it would take on the bike to be competitive for the win, but I thought I should be able to stay closer than I did at Ironman Texas, which wasn't a good race for me, and erase that, or give myself the ability to race that score with another score in Nice for the Pro Series. That's why I went there. I thought I had a good swim, but looking back at it, I had the exact same swim that I did the last 2 years, or within a couple of seconds. So I thought it went better than it actually did. It felt better in the water than it actually did. But yeah, that's the way it goes. And then on the bike, I just didn't have the legs early on that I needed to go with the group that made it to the front of the race. And I don't know if it was it was obviously a bit of the fatigue, but it was also, I think, a little bit of just salvaging, a little bit of a fear mindset going in as I think about it now. And so that's something I've got to work on leading into the World Championships. I can't be timid on the first hour of the bike. I have to be willing to take that risk. And I just wasn't, either physically or mentally, or both, at Lake Placid, and I bled time by riding in no man's land. There were stretches where I felt great and had good power, and there were stretches where I just didn't. and there were stretches where my back was really bothering me, but it was definitely better than it was in Cairns, and it was definitely better than it was at Roth, so that's an encouraging thing, is I guess. And when I got onto the run, I was in 15th off the bike, I believe, and thought I would have a good shot of running up into at least the top 10 and paying for my trip. But yeah, I felt good on the flats, and well, the quasi flats that they have at Lake Placid. There's not really much of a flat there, and I felt good on the downhills, but the uphills, the steeper uphills, I had nothing to throw at those sections, and yeah, ran essentially the same time as I did the last 2 years, but the race was faster to the front, which didn't play out well for me in the overall standings, and a little bit deeper than it was the last 2 years there, which didn't pay out for me in the top 10. And so overall, I think I was a couple minutes slower than I was last year on a faster day. And so, yeah, finished outside the top 10 and got very little points to show for it. So overall, not thrilled with how that went, but yeah, that's part of it. And I knew I was going to be up against it. I knew it was a tall ask, but that doesn't mean I can be happy with going in and not getting what I wanted out of the day. So I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to have expectations for myself, even if those expectations are really high, and I know those expectations are really high. But yeah, so it stings a little bit to walk away with 11th, you know, the first person to go home without a paycheck. That's never fun. But I'm not immune to the fact that it was a big ask, and you know, I did okay, just wasn't what I wanted out of the 3 race block. That's really all I've got time for this one. The video's got well long enough, so I'll end it here, and I'll come back very shortly with another one where I talk a little bit more about the takeaways and maybe some more of the lessons and the training that I did in between races and things like that. But that's all I got for you now. We'll see you in the next one.